So thank you very much for the invitation. I'm glad to be here. As Martin said, I was here 5 years ago for the first venue of reSite, and I was thinking, I don't know where the name actually comes from, but it seems to be programmed for the theme that we have this year for this conference. The idea that in the end, every architectural project, every site, every situation somehow migrates. No, it changes. It moves through different worlds, and it's being always recreated, misunderstood, copy pasted, etc. So this idea of translating or relocating of space is something very common in our everyday work. Maybe nothing that we like to talk about or not openly talk about, but maybe it's more normal than we suppose. However, so I'm going to first I'm going to start with an introduction. That you heard probably all these stories that I'm going to tell. I just need them to warm up a little bit. Some of them might be new, some of them you might have heard today or in other occasions. What I just want to point out is the issue that migration actually is a very diverse issue. And it's not only have to do with people changing countries or changing cultures or changing languages or moving in a lifetime from one place to the other, but migration has much more to do with movements that are actually much more diverse and overlapping. You know, we were talking on the opening in the municipality that the whole population of Prague actually leaves the city on the weekends, and probably all the German and American tourists conquer the city then when the Czech leave for the dacha to go out. So this is also a kind of immigration, and I think, you know, people. Well, my lifestyle actually, being a landscape architect, I am only in my office in Berlin maybe 2 days a week. The rest of the week I am in different cities. So I'm in a kind of constant migratory movement. And this kind of constant migratory movement becomes more and more the standard, you know. I mean, it's the velocity of this movement change immensely. So some people go to study somewhere, maybe they come back, maybe they stay, they fall in love or not, or maybe the economy is not going well, the place they choose to go, and then they go somewhere else, looking for chances in other places, or they get to know someone and follow that person. So this idea of a one-directional migration movement doesn't exist, and I think in general it has to do with the fact that there is a kind of a mega trend that has to do with the dissolution of borders, let's say. The borders between countries, it's much easier to move, it's cheaper to move, it's between certain countries, at least, and if you have the right citizenship, it's much easier to move between places. Places tend to offer very similar structures, so that it is easy, and also with English as the new lingua franca, it's easy to go to one place, from one place to the other, and so that the requirement also to become a member or to adapt to a certain culture also change significantly. No, it's not anymore that you know, my grandparents, they lived in Spain and they left in the 50s to go to Argentina. They took a boat and they never set a foot in Spain again. So the immigration we see today is very different. And this dissolution of borders again is not only between places and foreign places. It's also, sometimes it's temporary. Temporary can be for a weekend or it can be forever. I was walking in Prague and I thought actually they would be better off if they would have refugees, because the tourists are a pain in the ass. They destroy all the beauty of this place. It's impossible actually to be here. With refugees it would be maybe a little bit more exotic and a bit more interesting. And so, well, I saw this Thai place. There's this Thai massage place directly on the main square. That's probably the most interesting place here in Prague now to visit, and it's good for your feet, what is maybe relevant as well. So this idea of what good migration is, bad migration is, etc., becomes very difficult. There is also a movement, if you want, between classes. No, people obviously have the aim to change their class, especially to climb if they can from one social class to the next. Sometimes they have to change the social class down because the economy is not going well or whatever. So the idea of a flow between countries, between cultures, between social standards has changed. Even between the genders, this kind of clear division change, or even between the generations, if you want, you know. Many people that I know that are in their 60s or 70s seem to be much more interesting and much more young than some people in their 20s, no? So it's kind of changing, no? The people in the 20s are just scared of losing the standards, and the people in the 60s are just, or in the 70s are just enjoying it. So we don't have this kind of order that was created, that also to a certain extent, if you want, had a certain, let's say, I don't like to misuse this term too much, but I use it nevertheless. It has obviously also a little bit of fascism, you know. Fascism and also modernism always was meant to be ordering things, you know. You would have the traffic in one area, you would have the living in one area, the production in one area, so the city would be divided. And if you continue the story, you would have even races separated, nations separated, you know, one nation, one language, one religion, you know, one border around it, and then there is quiet and peace in the system, no? So this kind of systematization and order that in the end describes the 20th century and all the wars leaded to what we have now, leaded to the Cold War. That was this very stable situation of separation, and now we have the natural situation again. We don't have this kind of frozen border, but we have the borderless. And the question is, how can we use this borderless? How can we deal with this kind of idea that even the nation state is dissolving, even if we are having a revival of the nation state with all this election in England. You know, if you think of Great Britain never managed actually to be a state itself, no? Scotland and Wales might even win the next football game, no? That's going to happen. So the idea of the nation state, it's dissolving too. Cities, actually the name of this conference, often are more related with each other than they are with the country that surrounds them. Think of New York, for example, that is awfully surrounded by America, or Berlin, another good example, that is awfully surrounded by Germany. What a bad thing, actually. How can a cool city be surrounded by such an awful country, no? And maybe it's the same case here in Prague, or not, I don't know. In the case of Prague, maybe Prague is as awful as the country around it. So that's a question of the future development here too. But cities tend to live also another life, a global life that is independent to the culture in which they move. In that respect, they create another level of migration also between them, no? That creates another story. So, however, these are these sheets that show this movement. So this is one part of the story. So that we have to understand that migration is not only something that has to do with immigrants, but it's an everyday issue for us in the world, you know. And it's not only the drama of the poor people that have to cross the Mediterranean looking for a better life who come here, but it's much more than that. And this is actually just a very little element of it. This drama is just, thank God, a very little element of it. So this is one issue. The other issue, nevertheless, as I said, the mega development of the world is one of the solution of borders that has to do with globalization, that has to do with business, that has to do with communication, etc. Nevertheless, many countries, maybe also even small countries like Switzerland, try to somehow avoid being part. Even they profit enormously from the solution of borders. You know, they make incredible business with this flow of capitals and so on. On the other side, they would like to preserve their special identity, or what they think it's a special identity. You know, and so one thing that you can see with immigrants is that people, I mean, the European countries know that they need them, or that they can't avoid to let them come in. But on the other side, they don't want them to be too foreign, or they don't want them to have their objects brought with them. You know, when you immigrate, as an immigrant, you usually take maybe your bag with you, whether you wear on you. But actually, items, especially architectural items, obviously, are things that you leave behind, you know. And when it comes to this kind of items like mosques, etc., the European countries that usually are show themselves as being incredibly liberal and open end up being incredibly repressive and not allowing the immigrants to have these elements as part of the cities. So there was this Volksentscheid in Switzerland, this election to forbid minarets. You know, actually, it was an architect who led the argumentation, saying that the minarets don't fit into Swiss cities. Actually, the Swiss don't have cities, by the way; they have mountains. He could have said it doesn't. It should have been a natural preserver who says they don't fit to the mountains. So, and you see, actually, they look like rockets, no? And so, in the end, instead of let's say creating a welcome culture and say, let's share with these newcomers and let's create a good base, because we know that we will have to share with these people maybe for a longer time. And also, these people are a capital of renewal for our countries. You know, our wealthy countries are also a bit lazy and bored. You know, that's the reason we have urban gardening, because people don't know nothing better to do. No, so that's the reason we need immigrants. Otherwise, everyone is just doing urban gardening. That's Berlin, by the way. Yeah. So without immigrants, it would be just Germans doing urban gardening. So, however, this need for new blood is really important, but for that we have to create also a more permissive, more generous environment for the immigrants. Thinking of let's say of one of the European traditions that I am very proud of, is the idea of emancipation, that also has to do with recreation or dissolving of certain borders. You know, we have and I like the term emancipation, because in many cases when it comes to immigration, people speak about assimilation or integration or and so on. But in the end, the immigrants are often, especially the poor ones, are often just deprived classes with less rights and less lobby than other people in the city. So, and in the end, all people that don't have the same, minorities or groups, sometimes there are not so minorities, that don't get the rights that they deserve, in the end will fight for these rights to happen. So the question is if we allow emancipation to be a process, a peaceful process, or if we create such a repressive atmosphere that emancipation becomes a forced process, like in the emancipation of the proletarians with all the revolutions as we have, like the one we had in Russia, but also the workers' revolutions in Germany with lots of deaths and casualties. So we have the emancipation of the Jews that in the end didn't help much, I must say, in the context of Europe, but it took hundreds of years for the Jews to be allowed first to live their special settlement areas, to have the same rights to do all different professions, etc. We have the emancipation of the woman. We have, and we even have the emancipation of children. You know, so the idea that every individuum, doesn't matter what age it has, doesn't matter which sex it has, which culture, etc., is as valuable as anyone else, is not a new idea. I think it's already in the Bible, but still something that we have to daily fight for, because as humans we are bad. No, we all know that. So so culture, religion, all these things help us to work against that. So we only have two choices. One is that we are generous and we try to work in a peaceful way with the emancipation of immigration, or we will have turmoils and war and so on. So there is this sentence by Stoltenberg, who is now actually the General Secretary of the NATO. What is a funny thing, actually, but I think he's a quite peaceful guy. And they had this attack in Oslo, on that island in Norway, and on that island, you know, where this crazy Nazi guy killed all the young people who were having a campground for the Social Democratic Party. And he was saying that in the end, it's when these kind of things happen, and we are seeing them happening constantly, is not the natural reaction shouldn't be that we oppress more, but that we actually say, no, we actually like our lifestyle. It's cool, you know. We have probably one of the best times that Europe ever had, no? Why should we give that up because there are some stupid Nazis or some stupid Islamists putting bombs or killing people, no? I mean, I think we have still more casualties for car accidents, and no one is going to close Mercedes or Volkswagen for that, no? So in the end, I think that we can, as awful all these incidents are, I think we have to be careful that certain political forces aren't misusing these incidents just to create more repression, because more repression is more control, and more control is political power. So we shouldn't let that happen. So this is one part of the story of the park I'm going to show you in a sec. The other part of the story has to do with my profession. As Martin introduced me, I'm called Martin as well, and as all Martins seem to be studying landscape architecture. So and one of the things that I've always been fascinated by is the English landscape garden. And the English landscape garden actually is a very interesting epoch, a very interesting style in the history of landscape architecture. It was, and it has like different levels why it's interesting. The one that is probably most relevant for us today is the idea that you can recreate tradition. You can mix traditions and create your own tradition out of the mix of the traditions that you are incorporating in the parks. It's a very eclectic, very postmodern system. So the idea for these English aristocrats was that they would collect, the tradition that they actually don't have on the British Islands, because the Greeks were never in England. So they would then get some temples or some ruins, or they would even get American trees. The development of the English landscape park is parallel to the discovery, not the discovery, but the colonizing of America. So you would get Asian trees and American trees to be in this park, and you would create your own landscape. And landscape, because it's rooted, seems to be a good allegory for identity. No, it's the earth that we don't have roots, but we like to have the sense that we belong somewhere and are somehow rooted in something. And the landscape, because trees somehow give us this sensation, and because it feels like given. No, these parks never look, or they always had the attitude to look. Let's say natural. Obviously it's not natural at all, but they had the attitude to look like they were given and not made. Yeah? And so all these aspects are interesting. And the next aspect, and this is the reason I'm showing this picture, is that actually pictures, and this is part of the modernity of the garden. There's two modernities that are, or three, that are incredibly relevant. One is that in that style, the picture was before the reality. So these pictures by Claude Laurent and Nicolas Poussin, two French painters, fascinated these English aristocrats so much that they ended up asking the landscape architects, one of them called Capability Brown, could you do as a garden that actually looks like one of these paintings, because we love them. Yeah? And what these paintings do is what we will see later in the gardens. It's a mix, you have the angel, the Castle of the Angel in Rome, you have the Vesuve, so you mix all different areas of the world all together and create your own biogeography, your own identity. The other modern thing of these gardens is that they work in motion. Okay, so they call also this, because of the pictures this garden is made of, and because it works like a sequence of pictures, we speak about this style as the picturesque. So the idea that you walk from one picture to the other, actually it's like a movie, that instead of running in front of you, you run through the movie from one picture to the other. Yeah? So this is, let's say, the first time-space fluidum experience in a piece of design. No? Still, buildings you have to imagine as a pretty static object that was more framing certain actions of humans. In that respect, the human just becomes part of the scenery of this park. Okay, so you are part of the movie, moving in the movie. Let's say, so you have a kind of a fourth dimension, if you want. The other thing that is very relevant, garden etymologically comes from guarding, from protecting, from closing. So, but this garden actually dissolves the border. No, it doesn't have a border anymore. So the certain elements, like here, the trees in the back, for example, are actually not part of the garden, but they are part of the views that you create out of the garden. But also literally, the border between the garden and the landscape is actually dissolved. There is an element that creates a certain impediment to get into the garden, but this element is actually invisible. So this idea of moving through space in motion is very modern and very common to us today. The idea of dissolving of borders is incredibly modern and very of us today. And the third one is that a garden can be a very integrative element. No? Today we speak about these gardens as the English garden. You know? Nothing is English in them. The buildings are Greek or Roman or whatever. The trees are from America, and we speak about the English garden. So something that is completely foreign can actually become the archetype of a space sensation that actually, with the uprise of America as the second British Empire, let's say, dominates now the whole world. The idea of this kind of space, this eclectic space treatment, is something that you will see now all around the world. So it has been rather successful. What I like here in the strategy is that in the end, the temples, the elements you will see in this garden, still are wrong scale, and obviously they are made in England. So in the end, they are as much foreign as they are actually part of the country. Even the trees from America, I don't know, if they grow in English climate, obviously they become something else than American, no? Because they will react and grow in a different way, maybe flower in a different time, or more or less, or whatever, react to the conditions. So they become this kind of hybrid. And identity in many cases is this kind of hybrid, no? Between influence that you have from your parents, from your education, from your traveling, from your immigrating, etc. So this kind of hybrid that humans actually are not one-dimensional and have one identity, that are never only Czech, no? They can also be blonde, for example, yeah? What helps, no? So you can be 2, 3, 4 things at once. And so, and the garden, or the English garden, somehow resembles that. So these strategies, on one side, the idea of letting the people bring their objects of desire, of identification from their cultures into the public realm. This is one base, and the other base is the idea of, let's say, updating the idea of the English garden. So this is the park in Copenhagen. In the back you can see the Baltic Sea. The park, this is the Red Square. It used to be a tram. These are some tram holes in this area. The tram used to run through here, through Copenhagen, but it was taken out. So these are the different areas of the park: the red area, the black square, and the green part. So, as I said, another important issue was the idea of participation. You know, in Danish, Scandinavian culture in general, participation is a highly valued issue, and they expect actually for every project a well-developed strategy of participation. The problem in this neighborhood of Neighbourhood, is a neighborhood with 99% immigrants that in many cases don't have the education, don't have the language, and also don't have the time to do these urban gardening problem issues and participate, you know. So they have other problems. They have to look for jobs, they have 2 small apartments, they maybe are waiting for permissions to stay, etc., etc., have to take care of their kids. So they can't imagine that there is a need to talk about the park or the public realm in front of you. So we had to find another strategy to make the people participate. And we said, actually, you know, one of the most joyful moments when one does a project as an architect, as a landscape architect, is the moment when things that you just imagined become reality. So we said, this kind of experience of joy, we would like to share with the people. So instead of sharing, let's say, the painful process of decisions and this kind of blah, 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 discursive strategies, talk about the objects, because they are much more immediate and much more easy to talk and to understand and create ownership through the objects that are in the park. So in the end, we first started to do a homepage to try to get the people to provide the ideas of these objects to us. That didn't work either because they were not interested. So in the end, we had 5 dolmetschers, and we went from door to door, knocked on everyone's doors and asked them if they could provide and give us an object from their culture to then be placed in the square. But most of the objects that you see in this animation, this is from Iraq. You will see this is from England. This is also advertised, because in difference to the English garden, we embrace, let's say, more the objects of every day rather than the glorious objects of classicism or whatever. So, and And yeah, that's it for here. So an advertisement is part of it. So you don't know, so you are kind of dislocated. Where am I? This kind of question, you know. Where was I? Where was I last week? I have that sometimes. Where did I go swimming actually? Yeah. So this kind of questions appear for us more and more. So that you have to find another. Then you look at your iPhone and then you know where you were. No, that helps actually. I have it on me as well. So can you read? Can you buy the stuff that is here or not? Yeah. So this is the model that we presented to the city. It's one of the gatherings that we had with the people on site. These are the 100 objects that we placed. Even the sewage cover are foreign. So there is, like in the neighborhood, everyone is foreign. In the park, everything is foreign. Every tree, every object, every lamp, even as I said, the sewage covers are foreign. So, and in this process of participation, one of the we were going to one of these guys, or to one of these one of these neighbors. We knocked on his door, and he came in boxer shorts, opened the door, and we said with 5 people. You know, he was a bit shocked. He thought we would. He said I didn't do nothing. Yeah, he thought we would catch him. So we explained him, or one of our dolmetschers explained him what we are doing and what we're looking for, and said, no, I don't have anything and I'm not interested, blah, blah, blah. But then it happened that the dolmetscher knew him by coincidence, and then they started to chat and whatever, and they said, okay, I have something. Actually, my uncle, who is a dentist in Muscat, he paid for me to come here and study in Denmark. So I'm really proud of that, and I'm very thankful. So maybe that's interesting for you, and of course it was. And we then recreated it in Superkilen. Yeah? And what is important, as in the English temples, that there are, you know, this object is as much, let's say, symbolically Islamic, as if you look at it, it has this kind of Vorsprung durch Technik quality because it was made in Germany. Yeah, so it will last forever. Yeah, in difference to that thing that is already probably falling apart. Yeah, so but it has also this kind of Danish cool connotation, this kind of Scandinavian cleanness. So, and this is for me the ideal of immigration, that immigration is rich when it's capable of creating this kind of hybrid between worlds, and don't have to have a choice. You don't have to have a choice. You don't have to say I am that or I am that or I am whatever. You can be all of it if you want, you know. And that all of it is that what you are. And this is the idea for these objects. Obviously, it has also a different scale, etc. So these are the technical drawings for the objects. This is an American star. This is a donut sign. That you will see here. So speaking of dissolution of borders, you know, you suddenly have this donut sign here on the end of the park on a big road. So in the beginning of the project, people were stopping, looking for the donuts that you can buy. Some other people thought that this is not a bad French car maker, but part of our installations. Yeah. So you start to confuse, and parks. Actually, originally, when these English parks were done, they confused you as well. You know, you were in this kind of submerged. You know, they were done before the movie. You were submerged in this kind of surreality of space, in which the real actually doesn't exist. So everything is copied, no? And maybe in the end, it's going to be, because it's made in Germany, no? It's going to last also much longer than the stuff that the Americans built. So probably Americans are going to come to Denmark to see the last donut sign in 200 or 300 years. Yeah. The bull from Andalusia, you know, that is the emblem. It used to be an advertisement for brandy, for cognac in Spain, and they used this bull as their sign and as an advertisement, and they had them especially on the Andalusian hills, you know. So when the hordes of Dutch and German would invade the south of Spain, there would be the bull, and then they would know that they can get out of the car because they arrived. Yeah? The firm on some point decided to take out the bull and not being interested in having it anymore, so they to put it down. But then the problem was that all the Germans and Dutch didn't know where to stop, so they ended all up in the ocean. Yeah, yeah. So then they get a lot of complaints And in the end, the Spanish government bought the rights for the bull and put the bull up again on the mountains. So sometimes also things that are meant to be just advertisement also become part of the, let's say, the identity of a place. So things also can change even during their existence. The meaning of the objects can obviously also change during their existence. And because everything has had to go fast and you couldn't wait to, let's say, in many parks, you know, when you study landscape architecture, the first thing the old professors tell you, you have to be very patient and wait because the trees need long to grow, blah, blah, blah. So, and what is right, yeah, but sometimes you don't have the time, you know, because as I said, immigration, the movement of people, the motion in which things are created and problems are coming and going is so fast that you also in many cases need fast results. So and that's a reason, let's say, we have 100, and I was asked by a journalist why we didn't do any trees, but we planted 150 trees here, but they're just small and for now not as interesting maybe, but in 30, 40, 50 years when the color on ground is gone, then the trees will take over. But in the moment of creation, you need to have this kind of impacting qualities that actually create attraction and quality in a space. So thinking of the fluidum of space, of second and third dimension, we also were capable of dissolving, let's say, the border between a building in that case and the square, pulling up the square actually up on the facade. This is the plant scheme, so the plants are actually following also the color concept of the park. So we have all the red species here that overflow into the black square. We have the rather darker evergreens and some palms in that area, and the more green types in the green area of the park. So here you can see that. If there are some landscape architects in the audience, they are maybe happy. This is the Lebanon cedar in the black square. You know, the black square, there's another aspect of our thank global warming. We also have some palm trees here. Yeah. And again, the question is, where are we? So if you see that picture, could be Gran Canaria or wherever. There's the bull again. Some lamps from different places. So this lamp here is actually from Berlin. I just rushed through because I want to see, I don't know what this one is in. It's not as relevant. This one is from London, you probably know it. Yeah. This is from America, this is from China. This is from Russia. Also there is an app, so you can actually rush with your app through the space and read the story of each object, who proposed it, what context it has, etc., because otherwise there are no signs in the space. This is the swing from Iraq. Strange sports, I actually don't know what they're playing. So, and this is another one of my favorite objects that we have, and it shows, let's say, another conceptual issue that I didn't talk about yet, and that's the issue of, I like to speak about the aesthetic of conflict, you know. Many places, many squares, many parks, many cities in general tend to lose their identity, you know. Everything looks like some kind of copy of something, no? And it's like with humans, no? We are all imperfect somehow. So that but if we cultivate this imperfection, no? If we are capable to deal with these things that are actually ugly about us and incorporate them into what we are, then we have character. If we try to fight against them and to optimize ourselves to all become Americans, then it's really awful. Yeah. Then we are all like Martin, no? But he's Irish, but it's okay. Yeah. So. And in the end, speaking of spaces, in many cases when there are conflicts, instead of dealing with them or playing with them, they're being repressed. So one of the problems here on the square was that the young people were too loud and playing music, etc. So instead of forbidding the music, we just gave this problem kind of another frame. So we did these big boxes, these big loudspeakers from Jamaica. That is one of the objects that we picked up in the country because one thing that I forgot to tell you, because also this knocking on doors didn't work as well, we actually started to offer trips to the people. So we offered to 5 participants the chance to go to their country, to their culture, and pick up the object that we would put on the square. So we had this Jamaican group with whom we went to Jamaica and picked up these loudspeakers. And so the idea is that you can use the app, this iPhone app, to play your music in the square. But obviously it's not immensely loud, and it's turned off at night. So in the end, what was a problem becomes now a very joyful and cool object to play, and then you can listen, and then it's like the solution between the private and the public. Your private music suddenly is also part of the square, but it's part of, let's say, the official infrastructure of the square, and not anymore something that is forbidden like it was beforehand. Yeah. The same is for the boxing ring. I like to speak about let's say a psychoanalytical approach, because when you go to a shrink, they also tell you it's not about solving your problems, it's just dealing with them, no? Because you're not going to be capable to solve them, no? It's just to frame them new so they become part of you in the best case, or they become tolerable. So this area of the city is a very aggressive, very violent area, and when people are on bare ground and punch their faces, this is violence. It's actually forbidden. You can end in prison if you do that. But if you do it 40 centimeters above ground and you do a string around it, it's sports and it's allowed, no? And it's fun to watch other people punching their face, no? So this Thai boxing ring was also one of the objects that we picked up in Thailand, in Bangkok. Yeah? There is a Thai boxing community or club around the corner from the site. The Danish are also training, yeah? Not as good, this guy is better. And this is the black square. It was called the Black Market beforehand, and we kept it black. It used to be the most important drug selling square in Denmark, still is in Copenhagen. And so, and the idea is again that it's not about urban design. It's not about repressing certain, let's say, unpleasant or not welcome situations, but maybe make them visible and part of everyday life, and with that accepting that obviously there are not only nice things in life, but if you canalize them, if you integrate them in a slow process, you can maybe try to make them more tolerable or nicer. This is an object from Japan, this idea of translocation, something that in your country is boring. Like in Japan, every playground has one of these octopuses. In Germany, by the way, we have, in every stupid playground, we have a ship. I don't know, we never were a big ocean nation. I mean, we have more sea than you guys do, but not much more. So, I don't know where we have ships everywhere. Yeah, but in the Japanese, that fits better, they have the octopus, no? And we like that. So and it was the only object. It was built by a Japanese firm. We had the Japanese people building it, and because it was on the black square, we did it black, and you can see also how the inhabitants are starting to adapt to our color concept, what is part of our idea. The formal idea, this is an object I proposed. I was born in Argentina, and we are the biggest and greatest barbecuers, after the Australians maybe. And so, because, when it comes to public space, it's also about what is allowed to do in public space. In Berlin we have all these stupid huge parks, and on some point they were highly used by the Turkish community to barbecue. They are also great barbecuers. They brought whole lambs, alive ones even, and killed them on the grass and grilled them there. No, it's not true. But they really barbecue on that. It was the best use the Tiergarten, our main park, ever had. But then the Social Democrats, in coalition with the left party, forbid the use of the park, saying that it was too much dirt produced by the Turkish community there. No, so I think barbecuing is cool, and if you see other people eating, it gives you a certain trust. You think, oh, they're human, they're hungry, so we don't need to send them back. No, they're okay, and it smells better than the bullshit we have. I mean, the Danish is worse than the Germans what they eat. I tell you, yeah. So And obviously it creates a situation that suddenly is a little bit of a coming out, no? If you do things in private, then you get paranoid. People don't see you, so you don't know what they're doing. But if suddenly things happen in public realm, then the trust can be established in a soft way, you know, without having to educate the people, you know, that way. Maybe another a formal issue, the idea of third and second dimension that I was talking about in the red square we have here as well. We have all these height lines that actually define this black square, creating a real hill in the end of it. And they go around the objects. The Moroccan fountain, the chess tables from Germany, yeah, beautiful object. They used to be in every single social housing project, but quite spread. So we said if we push them together, maybe it's better. Yeah. And this is an object from Palestine, from Israel. We had this very strong political group from Palestine saying that they proposed to build one of the tunnels that go between Gaza and Israel. Yeah? And we thought it's a great idea, but probably difficult to build and safety, etc. And obviously politically maybe a bit risky. But we said actually, but what's interesting, maybe it's not the tunnel, but maybe it's the earth that you took out of the tunnel. No, so in that red earth that you see there is actually their installation. And it was also one of the objects that we went to get together with the people with the Palestinian ladies. So here you can see there are some movies of the trips. So here you see, here we are in Andalusia, picking up the bull. Here I think that's Bangkok. This is Jamaica. This is Palestine. Here is Palestine as well, filling up the earth to bring it to Copenhagen. And this is the two Palestinian ladies putting it on ground. So for some people this ground might be sacred, but other people just walk over it without giving it a shit, no? And this is if you want to have a lot of cultures living together, obviously you have to create as a certain distance. If you think that yours is sacred and more valuable than anyone else, or that the relevance that things have for you, they have to have for other people, then you obviously are already lost. So, and this difference of significance of objects is something that maybe as a designer is relevant to do. This is a more normal part of the park, the green part with a skating and ball game area. Different objects, two poor Latin Americans drinking beer next to the bull. This is an object from Uzbekistan. It's a bus stop with Islamic forms that we transported to Copenhagen. There is also a bus stop sign in Arab that says bus stop, and there is also an elderly home next to it. There is no bus stopping here. The guy doesn't know yet, but hopefully someone told him that. So the idea of creating, let's say, these functionalities, no? The cities, especially the northern European cities, are highly functional systems, and that's the reason they are, in many cases, if they don't have if they're not as lucky as Berlin is, because Berlin is only interesting because it went through 2 wars, 1 revolution, 1 communist system, and unification, you know. So imagine Berlin without all that, it would be worse than Vienna. It would be purely boringness, no? So, and that's Copenhagen in the end. So, you know, some places need order, some other places need disorder and dysfunctionality, no? To relax. So, and especially the Protestant countries need a bit of disorder. So, in all this narrative, you know, public space in the end is not anymore only that, also the dissolution of space in the sense, I have 5 minutes, right? Thank you. The dissolution of space between the let's say the public space, the built public space, and the fiction public space that might be the internet or the narrative or the stories around the place become more and more relevant. So that, because there is always an interaction between the real reality and the fictional reality, you know. So what was first, like in the English park, was the picture first or was actually the project first? And what is actually more relevant? Is the picture more relevant or the real picture more relevant? No? And because of this strong narrative, the projects create a self-reference that help the project survive processes, for for example, of maintenance. No, if projects get more attention, they also get more money to be maintained, and also people start to go to these areas, like in neighbourhood, that this used to be a no-go area with shooting, etc. And people start to go there, start to visit it, and people who live there start to be proud of their project. You know, so these kind of processes are very relevant, and I think we have to incorporate them in our work as well. So the Superkilen project is on the official site of Denmark, the national site, the site of Copenhagen. There's a Wikipedia about it. It has around 5 million results when you Google it. It has many nominations, among them the Miss van der Rohe nomination, and the newest one that is not decided yet is the Aga Khan prize for Islamic architecture, what is actually a little bit of a joke, but doesn't matter. It's $1 million prize, so I don't mind whatever joke it is. I don't think we get it, but I don't think we get it if they get what we were doing. Or maybe they're very open and not, as we think, all stupid, no? So lots of publications. CNN was talking about it being one of the strangest public park of Europe. And it became also the 10th most visited site of Denmark. So after the tourists go to see Tivoli and Christiania and whatever, they go to see our park. Yeah, there's a book that is worth looking at. And then there is a story that happened then afterwards. There is a school in the vicinity of the park, and the teacher of that school sent that picture for the campaign of Apple for the new phone that's 1 year ago maybe, for the iPhone 6, as you can see. And so the picture wasn't taken, and then actually our park started to also be part of many different spaces, like here, this one I took myself, this is in Alexanderplatz, this is in Hamburg, this is in Milan, in Italy, this one is in Tokyo, this one is in Los Angeles, no, in San Francisco, this one is in Los Angeles, this one is in Bogota, in Colombia. This was in Chile, yeah. And then it was also even on the backside of the Süddeutsche Zeitung magazine, that's a big national paper in Germany, and also on the backside of the New Yorker, which is a very cool newspaper in America. Thank you very much.